revenue. Each team will get a check for $400 million each. New York Knicks point guard Jalen Brunson could take up to $100 million less on his next contract to help keep the Knicks a contender and avoid the dreaded second apron. And the big news on the internet yesterday was Duke signee Cooper Flagg, who stole the show at Team USA practice. We're talking about practice? Practice. More than holding his own against the top players in the league. Is it already capture the flag season? I stole that from somebody on the internet. But we have got friend of the program, Devon Pouncey, is going to be joining us for the full third hour live in studio. But we start the Tuesday edition of Rip City Mornings right now at 620 Rip City Radio. And a very happy Tuesday. It is RCM. I'm your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brenden, safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Tuesday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. Cooper Flagg took over the internet yesterday, I saw. I don't want to be a hater. I don't. I want to be a positive voice in the sports world. But I think I've got too many years of Duke white guy hate in me. Going all the way back to Christian Laettner. From Christian Laettner to Bobby Hurley. Grayson Allen's in there. Of course, J.J. Redick. Can't forget J.J. Redick. And John Shire, who's their current coach, who I hated when he played there, Cherokee Parks. But, man, in just a handful of clips and a handful of highlights in a practice setting, feels like half the NBA is ready to just pull the plug on the season. All right, let's go. Let's get – and, again, like I said in the update, I'm ripping this off from the internet. Don't remember who said it, and if you did, tip of the cap to you. I'm stealing it. But it feels like capture the flag is going to be a real deal. It's going to be a real deal. I don't know if I'm fully bought in yet. I sense some shenanigans here. I sense maybe a bit of premature excitement, a little let's pump the brakes a little bit on this kid. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I just don't know how to spot talent. Maybe that's possibly it. Maybe I am just a hater and I don't know how to spot real talent. But I am going to go back with this Cooper Flagg situation to what Allen Iverson talked about, which is we're talking about practice here. Not a game. We are talking about practice here. We're talking about a scrimmage against, yes, arguably the 12 of the top 25 players in the world. But we're talking about a scrimmage. And what is this, day 3 or 4 of Team USA getting together? Haven't played together as a team. We don't know the circumstances of the scrimmage. Was Team USA trying to work on stuff? I just can't help but wonder if there have been other players, because it's not just Blazer fans. It was, fans all across the NBA world yesterday talking about, well, there it is, tank right away. It's time to tank it away. It's like, whoa. This is a 17-year-old kid who's playing a practice game. But maybe he turns out to be the next great NBA player. Maybe he turns out to be an absolute lock, dynamic, program-changing, organization-changing, city-changing player, because those guys are out there. But I'm going to give it maybe 1 or 2 Division I basketball games. Call me crazy. I'm going to give it 1 or 2, maybe a conference game, maybe a game against North Carolina State, maybe against a game against Wake Forest. Heck, maybe even wait to see what he does against North Carolina. But Cooper Flagg was all over the internet yesterday, and you couldn't help but see the highlights. Brenden, you're all in. Your team capture the flag. You are ready to go. Let's put the Rip City remix out there for the Blazers. Win about 3 or 4 games, and let's capture the flag.
Yeah,
you're all in.
Yep, I've been on him for a couple years since I heard his name and saw his highlights, and nothing's changed for me.
Just gonna let him play one college game.
I know. That's why I said I can't wait for him to dominate. Or he won't. I said, and then you'll get the last laugh. But I think I'm going to look back and go, Josh, remember when you were a little hesitant on Cooper Flagg?
Here's the thing. This is where you are skewing my argument. You are twisting my words. You expect to get this fired up 6 minutes into the show. I am not a hater on Cooper Flagg. I am of the opinion I don't know. I don't know if this guy's going to be an organizational changing guy. Like I said, a guy like this in an NBA community in a place like Portland, you can change the city. Giannis Antetokounmpo changed the city of Milwaukee, right? Does the Deer District happen if Giannis isn't there, right? Like you can see players, not only they can change an organization, but they can change the economics of a city. I understand that. But my beef is not with the 17-year-old kid who's just playing basketball. My beef has been with the instant reaction nature that seems to happen on the internet. That people, and I'm not saying you might have a dynamic eye for talent. You did know who Scoot Henderson was before I did. You did know who Risa Shea was before I did. We called him Risacher, but so maybe I'm not talking to you. Maybe I'm just talking to the people on the internet. But Brenden, you and I both know that there are multiple people on Twitter who all they have known of Cooper Flagg is that he is going to Duke, that he was the number 1 player in high school, and they watched a 17-second video clip. Now, I realize the hypocrisy. I realize it, that I once saw Bo Nix throw a spiral to air and said, boom, he's going to dominate. And he did. But that was a different situation because here's why. Before Bo Nix was set to come to Oregon, and part of it was Mario Cristobal, Oregon was set up with talent and ability and a roster that needed a dynamic, strong-armed quarterback to get the ball to weapons. And they didn't have that. And I saw one throw, and I'm like, all right, there's a strong arm. Need to get it to the weapons. So I understand the hypocrisy, but I think it's a little bit different saying that a guy's going to come in and win at college football than to say, yep, definitely tank away the season, and this is a guy who is going to, I don't know what. How much room we got up in those rafters for some banners? Let's start there are Blazer fans out there that are looking at Cooper Flagg in a practice game that have got like what my wife does when she grabs the tape measure, Brenden. She looks like that. Boy, that's going to be a lot of work. Every married guy knows what I'm talking about. When the wife grabs the tape measure, it's like, all right, that's going to be about $300, and that's going to be a good weekend of work. But there were Blazer fans yesterday who were like, well, got a lot of room up in those rafters. I think, at least 2 or 3 championships? And are already starting to measure where Cooper Flagg's number is going to get retired, right? It's like, my point is, this is a scrimmage. It was a scrimmage. As again, the Allen Iverson quote that, by the way, we get wrong every time. Everybody thinks that the Allen Iverson quote, like we're talking about practice, thinks that he is talking about how he doesn't want to practice. Go back to that quote, and because it is so appropriate to not just this Cooper Flagg thing, but it is so appropriate to some of the things that we talk about and discuss about in the world of sports today. Because Allen Iverson was essentially saying, Guys, you have seen me play in games. You see what I do. You see how hard I play. And we're going to talk about practice. It was him saying, why are we talking about the non-important stuff when the important stuff is out there? And it was an interest, and I don't know if Allen Iverson was looking forward to the landscape of media, or maybe he just had an epiphany, but it was a definite precursor of things to come. Are we talking about the games? And I'm guilty of it. Or are we talking about practice, off the court, off the field, all that stuff? But I root for the kid, except for when he plays North Carolina, because I don't like Duke. And maybe in 2 years, good Lord willing, creek don't rise, we'll be sitting here. And Brenden, your chair may be sitting a little bit higher if the Blazers get that number one ping pong ball, right? Let's just say that they're one game out of the play-in, right? Scoots on the all sophomore team. Klingen's top 3 rookie of the year. They actually get the ping pong ball to bounce their way like Atlanta did this year. They skip like 11 spots to get to number 1 and get Cooper Flagg, and all of a sudden we are broadcasting live from a parade in a couple years. I hope that's the case. I was shocked at the amount of people that were already throwing out, yep, definitely, that's the guy to tank for, on a couple of clips of practice.
I don't know.
On a couple of clips of practice.
I get what you mean, but there's also the other side of the argument, Justin, of Portland has a point guard of the future. They have a shooting guard of the future. They have a center of the future. Oh, wait, what do they need? Oh, a 3 or 4 of the future. Oh, what does Cooper Flagg play?
I love it.
And
it'd be great.
Yeah.
I hope it works.
So, I think in that respect, for the Blazers, now I'm not saying Cooper Flagg would fit on a team with Kevin Durant or someone else who starts at the threes. And, Cooper Flagg wouldn't fit with LeBron, most likely, but for a team like the Blazers, yeah.
You ready? You ready for another 20-win season for Cooper Flagg?
I'll give one more.
You give one more.
This guy's good enough. And it's beyond just him. We just talked about maybe the worst draft ever. Love you, Donovan. And
yeah, cling it.
The Blazers only picked one,
God,
and they had 4 picks.
I hope we look back and be like, hey, remember when everybody said that was the worst draft?
It's
And look
true.
at Klingon now. I hope
it's fair. You're totally right.
I hope he's the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis, right, of this draft. Or Tyrese Halliburton, all those guys we talked about. Maybe that's what it is. It's the Duke thing. It's the Duke white guy thing. It's the instant reaction on the internet that I always try to oppose. But maybe it's just like, man, I don't know if I want to do 21 win season again.
Yeah, that's really
that's gonna be
the long and short of it.
Long, cold winter. All right, coming up next, NFL just made $13 billion. NFL is king. How did they get here, and what can the NBA learn? We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so the numbers are in, and Brenden, where did we find these? Is this from ESPN on the 13 billion from the NFL? But the numbers of revenue are in, and the NFL had a pretty good year. Turns out,
Sportico.
those guys, you guys are always on it. Isn't that where you can find out like career earnings of players?
Yeah,
and
they
just
also have like the salaries for
and
like
just
NBA players.
slap your head and be like,
it's great.
that guy got paid how much money for his career? Anyways, but Sportico came up with the numbers: $13 billion in revenue from the NFL this last year, and each team's going to get a $400 million check. And we have talked about it multiple times. When you look at kind of what's going on in the sports world, there is still one constant, right? Which is the NFL is still the big bully on the block. The NFL is the one that runs the show. I compared the NFL to Debo in Friday. You ever seen the movie Friday? Probably a little before your time. But Ice Cube, it was a very big deal. Smokey and Debo was the bad bully on the block, and he's the NFL, which is essentially whatever they want to do. They took Christmas away from the NBA, and we've even seen college football bend over backwards a little bit when you look at when the national championship game is played. When you look at when the new 12-team playoff, like they are trying to stay away from the NFL as much as possible. And it wasn't always the case. So I'm wondering, how did we get here? How did we get here to the NFL being the no doubt number one sports entity in all of America? Because, again, when I was growing up, and cable TV was kind of in its infancy, the NBA was a huge deal. The NBA was a huge deal. NBA had stars, right? We talk about the marketing genius of David Stern, ruled the league with an iron fist, but the marketing genius of David Stern, which was like, we are going to market our superstars. It's Bird versus Magic. It's not Lakers versus Celtics. It is Jordan versus Ewing. It's not Knicks versus Bulls. And it continues to this day when you look at NBA marketing and you look at NBA promotions, it's the player. That's the one thing that the NBA has in its arsenal, which is their stars are seen. And in the 90s, and I don't know if the numbers back, but in the 90s, it felt, maybe it was just because I was looking at it through teenage or adolescent eyes, but it felt like in the 90s, the NBA was the big bad bully on the block. The NBA went global in 1992 with the Dream Team. There was nothing bigger than the Dream Team. The NBA had Michael Jordan, had Charles Barkley. You look, commercials, advertisements, most popular play. Yes, there were popular football players in the 90s. Don't get me wrong. But the NBA had a Michael Jordan. The NBA had a Charles Barkley. Tail end of Magic Johnson. The NBA had a guy named Shaq. And from the 90s into the 2000s, you saw a shift. You saw a shift happening, and I think there are two huge, monumental things that put the NFL on the top of the sports world. First and foremost, I think the internet helped the NFL more than any other league, and here's why. Brenden, how many fantasy football teams do you have?
About 3 each year.
About three. Would any of those be possible without the internet?
No, well, Probably, but I wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it.
No, if it wasn't an app, you think I'm going to keep track of that stuff on my own? No way. That's a lot of math, Justin.
You got to get the paper. You got to check the stats.
Fam.
And also, you have to correspond with the other people in your league, either on a phone call or have a meet. Like, legalized sports gambling is in our world right now. But the first legalized sports gambling was fantasy football. That's the first legalized sports gambling, right? Two things, right? NCAA March Madness and fantasy football. And you might be saying, oh, Justin, they had rotisserie baseball. It's like, yeah, I know. But how many people do you know that played what was back then known as rotisserie baseball, then became fantasy baseball, that keep up on it week to the same way people do fantasy football? Not even close. So all of a sudden, just like March Madness, right? It's a reason why March Madness, one, it's crazy, it's fun, buzzer beaters, David and Goliath, all that stuff, Cinderellas. But also we have an investment. Everybody fills out a bracket. You got an investment in every single game. Well, most people, now I'm not a fantasy football guy, but I understand the allure of it. And you go back when the internet came into our homes, when it went from being a place you went to go web surf at a internet cafe. You do not know the pleasures of the internet cafe, Brenden, or had to go to the library. All of a sudden, the internet came into our homes, and boom, fantasy football. You can now email trades, picks, statistics are up on website. It's so easy to find. So I think that was a very big deal with the NFL becoming the monster and the behemoth that it became. The internet came in and fantasy football became so easy. Yes, Brenden.
One thing to add to that too, Justin, whether or not it's the 17-game schedule versus the 82 and the 160, there are still people that play, but the numbers drop off so much from fantasy football to people who do fantasy basketball.
Yeah.
To people who do fantasy baseball. I'm not saying there aren't. There are people who do.
It's so easy to
but
manage.
Not me. I don't do fantasy baseball or basketball. It's too much effort.
That's a lot of management.
Yes.
And
you're not a fantasy guy.
I just am not. But if a guy's hurt on a Tuesday, then you got to bench him, right? Do you know that,
LeBron's got load management on a
yeah,
Thursday night? No, I didn't know that. Oh,
exactly.
There's a 0 in my lineup.
But to me, I think the other secret sauce is the NFL, and I don't know how they managed to pull it off without a major strike or a major lockout or a major labor dispute. Now, they've had labor disputes, don't get me wrong, but the fact of the matter is, how did the NFL get to where non-guaranteed contracts? Non-guaranteed contracts, I believe, are the reason that the NFL is the number one professional sports entity, and it's not even particularly close. Here's why. With a hard salary cap, which, by the way, the NBA is getting closer and closer to. That second apron's not exactly a hard set, but it's getting closer. But with a hard salary cap, that ultimately creates parity in the league. You have a salary floor. You got to spend so much money, right? And then you have a salary cap. You guys all know this. I feel like I'm explaining it to 5-year-olds. But that creates parity. And while, every once in a while, the Denver Broncos may make a bad decision on Russell Wilson and they're going to have to pay $30-some million in dead money. In the NBA, the Denver Broncos make that move and you miss on a superstar that bad, that puts your organization in trouble for 5 years. 5 years, if not longer, maybe a decade.
And you're getting fired on top of it.
And you're getting fired.
You probably wouldn't in the NBA. That's probably true. I mean, you probably wouldn't anything, but you're right. Just the
you offer a supermax contract to a guy that is not good. Like your organization, we talk about it all the time. You got to tank then, right? DeMar DeRozan just got traded to the Sacramento Kings. He got a max deal with the Bulls, I believe. Didn't work. Guess what? Bulls are tanking. The Chicago Bulls. Not just the Blazers, the Chicago Bulls, who have, now it was back in the 90s, but have 6 championship banners hanging in that stadium. They're going to be tanking this year. And in the NFL, the non-guaranteed contracts bring a couple of things. One, like I said, it brings parity. 2, you can't ask a player to tank. The Dolphins tried, remember? How'd that work out? They got fined, they got in trouble, they got a lawsuit. It also didn't work out. But you can't ask a defensive lineman, second-string defensive lineman, who is on a non-guaranteed contract, who is going on a year-to-year just trying to make the roster on year-to-year contracts. You're going to tell him, yeah, we're not sacking the quarterback the fourth quarter because we're tanking for Arch Manning? There's no way. You're going to tell some left tackle who is trying to continue to just keep his career going by a year? And so with that, you can't really tank. And with that, you create a sense of parity in a league where, let's be honest, if we look at all of the offseason moves in the NBA right now, how many teams could legitimately get to the NBA? Let's just say get to the NBA Finals. Let's play my favorite game, which is dudes shouting out teams. Celtics, Knicks, Bucks, Sixers could legitimately make the NBA Finals. Also, if the Magic or the Pacers or the Heat did, would not surprise me. Would not surprise me. That's the East. In the West, Oklahoma City, Denver, Minnesota. Mavericks were just in the finals. Suns. And then you have Clippers, Lakers, Pelicans, Kings, who, if they did make it, it'd be kind of surprising, but it wouldn't be earth-shattering. The rest of the league, Spurs, Blazers, Rockets, Pistons, Wizards, Hornets, Nets, Raptors, Bulls, Heat, or Hawks, excuse me. You know, going into the season, even the most delusional of fans are like, there's no way we can get to the NBA Finals this year. There's no possible way we can get to the NBA Finals this year. In the NFL, I would say Carolina Panthers. Who else is going to be really bad next year?
The Cardinals. You mentioned them.
Cardinals. They still have Kyler Murray.
Just that division, right? I mean, Seattle, Rams,
but if the
Niners.
Seattle Seahawks with new coach Mike McDonald,
I think the Seahawks could take a step back.
No, they could make the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It would be a little bit, whoa, how about that? But they could make the Super Bowl. It wouldn't be, that's my point. My point is, there's maybe the Bears. The Bears are going to be good, but they're not going to be.
What if Caleb Williams was this year's Stroud? I'm just like,
you're right.
Like good, like not super, but just like.
Which is adding to my point, which we can talk about, right? Why is the NFL the number one entity? Part of it's fantasy football. Part of it is that weekly ritual that we always had, but we've always had that. Part of it is some people with, they have a tough time with certain NBA players, and the culture of the NBA can be a bit of a tough thing to deal with. I love the NBA. I cover the NBA. The load management stuff drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely bonkers. The NBA has a problem with their superstars not wanting to play basketball. But to me, the biggest difference as to why the NFL is by far and away, the most popular professional entity is because you can honestly say, as a fan of nearly every NFL team, we got a shot this year. And you're not looked at like a buffoon. If I came on this air and was like, hey, Brenden, I've been putting some thoughts together. Boy, if Klingon pops and Shaden stays healthy, and I think the Blazers can make a run to the Western Conference Final. You look at me like, Justin, are you on drugs? Are you on drugs? But other than maybe the Cardinals, the Panthers, Broncos, and who knows? Because I love Bo Nix. But maybe Tennessee Titans. There's not a lot of teams where you go, hey, hot take. You could go on this show. You could go on ESPN. You could be like, hey, hot take. I think the Indianapolis Colts can make the Super Bowl this year. And you might be right. You might be. How bad were the Detroit Lions 2 years ago?
You go like 3-13, 3-14, something like that.
They should have been in the Super Bowl this year. They had the Niners beat. They had them. They had them beat. Now, credit to Brock Purdy, credit to the 49ers. They made the plays, but like.
Yeah, they went from 3-13 to 9-8 to 12-5.
The Detroit Lions. Historically horrible franchise.
Impossible job to win at, Justin. How many coaches have come and gone? And Dan Campbell just.
You get the right guy. You get with Jared Goff at quarterback, who was kicked out of L.A., the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans were a joke of a franchise. Absolute joke of a franchise. They were in the playoffs last year. And if the Houston Texans make the Super Bowl this year with C.J. Stroud, are we going to be like, whoa, is the NFL rigged? No. Fact of the matter is, in the NBA, you've got teams that, under the actual current new financial restrictions, have to lose on purpose. That's the worst part of tanking. The worst part of tanking is that it works. And that you have to put fans through years and years and years of horrific basketball just to be able to try to compete. The NFL, you got to hit about 2 or 3 draft picks, and you got to find a quarterback. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are going to be very good this year, but Kirk Cousins, we know, is capable of winning 15 regular season games. He did it with the Vikings. Or, like you said, maybe Michael Penix is the next C.J. Stroud. Maybe Kirk Cousins, 3 games in, isn't getting it done, and they decide, you know what, we're going with the kid now. I know we paid you, but Kirk Cousins, but we're going to go with and maybe Michael Penix, who has put it on my beloved Oregon Ducks a couple of times, maybe he's the real deal. And by the way, even though the Carolina Panthers probably not going to be very good this year, and I'm not ready to completely write off Bryce Young, but Carolina Panthers are just 2 moves away from getting right back into it. So we can talk about cultural issues, and we can talk about TV contracts, and we can talk about load management. It comes down to every NFL fan at this point in the calendar has something to look forward to. Can't say that about every NBA fan, other than maybe tanking in the draft. All right, we've got, speaking of looking forward to, our countdown to kickoff college football 2024. We go on campus next, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, Rip City Radio is keeping the Ticket Tuesday winning streak alive. That's right. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. Make sure you listen to Rip City Drive this afternoon for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Hillsboro Hops, or you can get your Hops tickets now at hillsborohops.com each and every Tuesday. That's right. It is Ticket Tuesday here at 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we continue our countdown to kickoff. It is now 53 days away. Brenden, how many days away from your beloved video game? You're like
I think
5?
I get it Monday night,
Get it
so less
Monday
than
night.
a week.
All right, less than a week. So we got about 5. If we don't count today, we got about 5 days of Brendan's beloved video game, and then we have 53 days until the actual football season kicks off, and it is going to be a season unlike any other. Saw this from Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix, put this on the internet yesterday, which I am fascinated with. And is 9-3 good enough? Is 9-3 good enough, or is the 10-win season still the gold standard in college football? What am I talking about? Well, before we get to all that, we need some cool drums as we go on campus. All right, so obviously heading into this year, there is going to be a 12-team college football playoff. And I have been wondering through the long, cold, dark winter into the still cold, dark, rainy spring, and now into the way too hot summer. Are we going to continue to evaluate teams the same way we have done so over the past 150 years of college football? And really for the last 100 years, which has always been, it's more about your losses than your wins. Right? When you fill out, or when you look at the rankings, the losses are all we seem to care about as opposed to the wins. Sometimes, yeah, head-to-head, strength of schedule, but you know, when you looked at the situation last year, like Florida State was undefeated, but you look at the losses, more important than the wins. Texas versus Alabama in terms of an evaluation, right? So this last year in the Week 15 rankings, like the argument was Texas or Alabama, and it came down to, well, Texas beat them head-to-head at their place. But look at their loss, though. And so now that you got a 12-team playoff, I'm wondering, are we going to be changing the way teams are evaluated? Here's why I brought it up. Dave Bartu put this on CFB Matrix on Twitter. Says 9-3 makes the playoffs in the last 10 years with a 12-team bracket. He said 3 times, and it was all in 2018 with UCF at 12-0, and no 8-10, 11 or 12 at 9-3. Says everyone else had 10 or more wins. So the odds right now of a 9-3 team making a 12-team playoff is approximately 3%. And good for him for doing the math for me. But here's what I'm wondering. For a long, long time, before the 4-team playoff, all you had to get right was number 1 versus number 2. Nobody cared who you ranked in the top 10. All you had to get right was number 1 versus number 2. Then you got into a situation where there was a 4-team playoff. And number 5 and number 6 were fairly important in how you rank teams because those were the teams on the outside looking in, Florida State and Georgia. But nobody, like, if you go and look at last year's rankings, Brenden, Oregon, Missouri, and Penn State, and Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, all sitting there with 2 losses. Oregon had already lost the Pac-12 championship game. I don't care where they were ranked, quite frankly, compared to Ohio State, compared to Penn State, compared to Ole Miss. Didn't care because at that point, you weren't getting in regardless. Now that you've got 12 teams in, I wonder LSU sitting there at 13 at 9-3 with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Is there going to be a different way we are going to be looking, especially in a year where conference games are going to carry a little more weight? Big Ten's got a gajillion teams. The SEC has Texas and Oklahoma now. The old way of evaluating, Dave Bartu is right. Only 9-3 is not going to be good enough. 9-3 is not going to be good enough. But I'm wondering, and I'm not making any predictions. I'm just wondering, is there going to be some 9-3 team, but has a couple of big wins and maybe scheduled tough non-conference? Because now, who's 13, who's 14, and really who's 11 and 12 all matter. Because you're going to have that one group of 5 as an automatic qualifier. And we may get one weird year where, like, the Big 12 has a 3-loss champion. Do you know what I mean? Like, that may potentially happen. But I just wonder, are we still going to be evaluating college football seasons the way we've been doing it under the old system, which is, hey, we just got to get number 1 versus number 2. And usually that means undefeated. I'm looking at a situation where I think there's going to be a lot of politicking. There's going to be a lot of campaigning, even more so because we see it in college basketball all the time. Now, it's different with the 68-team bracket. But how much did we hear of, like, mediocre teams trying to talk their way in? Do you think we're ever going to get to a point where maybe we saw it this year. Florida State got left out because their quarterback got hurt. But I'm wondering, looking like the college basketball landscape, are we going to see a time where there's a 9-3 team making an argument going, yeah, but we're a better team than that 10-2 team?
Making it, I'm not sure will that argument, that situation happen? Absolutely.
And changing the evaluation process.
But we now know there's going to be some leeway for committees. And after what they did to Florida State last year, and I'm not saying it wasn't right, because I still would have probably done the same thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
They've set the precedent that you can leave teams out that belong to be in, which I kind of like.
This whole thing drives me mad, but I thought it was an interesting stat from Bartu. It was like, 9-3, that's 3%. And that was a flyer. Like, yeah, but are we going to look differently at a 9-3 SEC team? What if Texas is 9-3, right? Because they got a, SEC's gauntlet of a schedule. We have got a gauntlet. It's hour 2, and that's next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. NFL numbers are in from last season. The league will be making $13 billion with a B in revenue. Each team will get a check for $400 million each. You think they got direct deposit on that, or they get a check? I got to cash this $400 million check. It's like, you're going to have to call the manager. Knicks point guard Jalen Brunson said he could take up to $100 million less on his next contract to help keep the Knicks a contender and avoid the dreaded second apron. And Duke signee Cooper Flagg stole the show at Team USA practice, more than holding his own against the top players, which has Brenden and other Blazer fans saying it is time to capture the flag and tank the 2025 season. Coming up, friend of the program, Devon Pouncey, joins us in hour number 3. We reignite the blue blood discussion in college football. We have got to make or miss, and it's 100 degrees and I am grumpy. Hour 2 of Rip City Morning starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Tuesday. As I just mentioned in the update, we have got a make or miss coming up. Also, 1 hour from now, Devon Pouncey is going to be joining us live in studio. I think he's going to be headed to Vegas next week for Summer League. So get his thoughts on Donovan Clingan and company. No Scoot, though, in Summer League.
Caught me a bit surprising, I'm not going to lie.
What do you think's behind that?
They must really like what they saw from him in that final month of the season last year.
I think they
take
did.
This month, the rest doesn't really matter. Scoot looked pretty raw for most of the season, Justin. This is exactly what raw players do. They go to the Summer League to hone in their skills.
Okay, can I have a bit of a hot take? And I don't even know if I believe what I'm about to say. Do we maybe overvalue and hype up Summer League a little bit too much? Because if some media members can explain how important it is, it may get them a free trip to Vegas. I'm just throwing it out there. Do maybe, now, not you or I, because we're not getting a free trip to Vegas. But do you think maybe some media members hype up Summer League just a little bit too much of its importance? Because if they can convince listeners, viewers, and readers of its importance, then you can convince your employer of its importance, and then that employer go, well, if it's important, we got to send you down there, and then you get a week in Vegas. Just bit of a hot take.
But a week in Vegas this time of year, Justin, it's not the best time. I love Vegas. It's not the best time to be down there right now.
See, I disagree. I think give me the 114-degree heat. We talked about Vegas yesterday. We don't want to do it too much on the show, but like in the springtime, I went down there for spring. That wind is brutal. You get that windy season in Vegas. Anyways, I don't know. I just wondered how important is all this? I mean, it's like if you talk to football fans, right? Like OTAs are are OTAs really that important? Is minicamp really all that important? How important is Summer League? But it was interesting that Scoot Henderson, they wouldn't just play like one game together. Because that's all you would really send him down there for, right? Is just one. You wouldn't play like, what do you got, like 4 games in the Summer League?
I'm trying to think recently. I remember like Shaden Sharp played as a rookie, hurt his shoulder. Believe
5
he played,
minutes in.
Yeah, believe he played again last year. Obviously now it's going to be
Scoot played like a half and then left, right?
Yeah, he had an injury too, I think. The Donovan Clingan show is going to be the move this year. Like I want to see Clingan get, we're talking like SportsCenter has been absolutely lit up over Zach Edey getting a tip-in.
I know.
This morning. So
more than Bronny's crossover?
Well,
and his 4-2-2?
Well, they did you see the video, Justin, where LeBron was at training camp and they showed him Bronny getting his first bucket? Oh yeah, it's just it is what I like to tell you. It is the in-between season in sports, man.
I know.
The
it really
NBA is ended. We don't have the Open for another week or so.
I know.
And then we don't get the Olympics till the end of the month. So we're like you said, we're counting down college football. Thank goodness my video game's coming. This is why Justin's going to Hawaii next week. Then we get media days. So it's like
Well,
it is the in-between week for
well,
sure.
Big 12 starts media days coming up, I think today.
Pac-2's tomorrow.
Pac-2 is tomorrow down in Vegas. Anything you are interested to hear from Trent Bray?
I saw the lineup and whatnot. Like, they're bringing in, like, I think it's like Steven Jackson and maybe one of the famous
as like an ambassador.
Yeah, like one of the famous Cougar quarterbacks too. I don't want to quote. It's either Alex Brink or Ryan Leaf.
Clearly, Alex Brink.
One of the two.
We love that guy.
And then like stuff like that. Steven Jackson, Vegas guy, makes sense.
That does make sense.
But like I thought about going, but for one night, it's with I'll just say this: a couple student athletes for Oregon State that I've talked to a whole bunch of times. I'm like,
yeah, you probably got your
I'm
fill.
like, I'll see what cycles through, but I wanted to go. But, like I said, Justin, it's a little tough to depart this great show in the middle of the week. It adds a bit of a headache to it.
All right,
so I'm like, I'll hang here.
I want to ask this, speaking of college football.
Sure.
We mentioned this a little bit yesterday, and then Andy Staples on 3, he wrote a whole article about it. It's kind of fascinating, right? We talked about the term blue bloods, right? And I did this whole weird history of like why people are called blue bloods, but it's a term we use in college football and men's basketball for the most part, right? Who are the blue blood programs? It really was mostly a basketball one because all the really good teams seem to be Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and UCLA were all blue in their school colors, but neither here nor there. I do not believe Oregon is a blue blood program. I do not believe Oregon can ever be a blue blood program because I believe to be that, you have to have generational success, and Oregon does not have it yet. And if they are going to be a blue blood program, here's the other thing about it. It's because it's not a clear, defined label. To be a blue blood, you have to be accepted by the other blue bloods. They might not like each other, right? Just like if you go, like I mentioned the country club, like you go to a country club, you may not like, the Joneses over there, but like, all right, but we accept you. You're part of this club. You helped build this club. According to Andy Staples, he's got current blue bloods being Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, USC, and Penn State. Those are what Andy Staples has kind of dubbed the current crop of blue bloods. I got no problem with any of them. All of them kind of fit the mold, which is past success and snooty fan bases that can't help but tell you about past success. Big money, old money, tradition, all that stuff. The only one I think I would question is maybe Oklahoma, but even then that seems a bit silly for the amount of success that they've had going back into the 70s and even before that into the 60s. So there you go. Those are the current blue blood programs. Blue blood contenders. I'm going to throw these out, Brenden. I would like you to say if you believe any of these programs should be in the blue blood list.
Yay or nay? Let's do it.
Florida State, which is fascinating because, again, when I was growing up, Florida State was the gold standard of college football. They were Alabama before Alabama. Bobby Bowden was Nick Saban before Nick Saban. Now, Nick Saban would win like 6 championships, and Bobby Bowden would only win 2. But no one was better in the 90s. And then they have a national championship and a Heisman Trophy win with Jameis Winston in the 2000s.
If they didn't have that national championship win 13, I would say no because they did not win one in my lifetime. Actually, no, that's not true. 99 counts. But still, I will say yes because that is and I don't mean to bring up revisionist history, Justin, but if it wasn't for the fact that he was Willie Taggart leaving Oregon for Florida State tells me it's a bit of a blue blood, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. Not only, he's a Florida guy, dreamed all that, but him leaving what we know Oregon is now.
Yeah.
That tells me they're a blue blood for sure.
LSU.
Yeah.
See, I'm surprised LSU is off the list, but
You know me. I love. Like I think the LSU 2019 team is, for my money, maybe the best college football team I've ever seen. USC's in that mix too. So
See, because to me, here's the thing about like these blue blood programs.
do you have a team who's up there with the best ever? That also
Yeah.
puts me. So like we haven't got to the U yet in Miami, but
Well,
yeah.
but see, here's the like, because you think about Alabama. To me, like you have to have multiple coaches with multiple years of success. That's what when I talk about generational is that the Bear Bryant fans and the Nick Saban fans, right? And as for Ohio State, right, Woody Hayes all the way to Urban Meyer and all points in between. Barry Switzer at Oklahoma to Bob Stoops, right? You had a blip on the radar with Jimbo Fisher with Florida State, but really you were nothing before Bobby Bowden, and you're getting there with Norvell. He's good.
He's showed some good things, yeah.
LSU has got diving back into the past. Clemson. We're on Clemson. I don't think they're a blue blood program. I think they were a fun. You watch the comic book movies.
I do.
A fun villain in like a sequel. You know what I mean? Like who was the bad guy in Spider-Man 2? Wasn't it
Doc Ock, man?
Willem Dafoe?
Yeah. Or
no, that was the first guy.
Willem Dafoe's first one. Alfred Molina. Doc Ock.
Ock.
Second one.
That's what Clemson is to me. It's like, it's Spider-Man 2. We need a villain. Like, Alabama's crushing everyone. We need a new villain. Clemson, you are it.
I can see it.
Miami. See, Miami to me, not a blue blood.
That's tough for me. I
don't have a tradition of success before the 80s. You don't have a tradition. Like, that's... And maybe this is Gen X talking, but to me, to be a blue blood program, well, you got to get back into the 70s at least.
Top 5 titles, but with how many different coaches?
Greatest dynasty of all.
you're talking, you said coaches, Schnellenberger to Jimmy G, or Jimmy J.
Jimmy Johnson, yeah.
Not Jimmy G. Where's he at these days? To Dennis Erickson, right? Then to Butch Jones. Then to...
yeah, but what do all those guys have in common? They all bounced.
It's fair.
They all left for the USFL, the NFL.
But like 5 though, I don't know if I can ignore 5 titles.
I know
that's tough. Like that's one where I see where your point is and totally get it. But I'm like Miami. It's man, like not a lot recently. But man,
this is the thing with Miami.
It's a good question. Great debate.
Miami a couple years ago, and it's going to sound bad, kind of reminds me a little bit of Oregon, which is. They kind of hacked the system. They did it with keeping the South Florida kids in South Florida. Oregon did it with marketing. This is the reason why Miami and Oregon aren't blue bloods. You want to know the biggest reason why? The other blue bloods don't accept them. The other blue bloods don't, like Alabama does not accept Miami. And clearly Ohio State and Michigan are not going to accept Oregon. I don't care how much you win. Miami's won as much as anybody in the 80s and the 90s. And in the 2000s, they're not accepted. They're still looked at with the side eye at the country club. And I think that's always going to be Oregon. I don't know. It was a fascinating article. We may dive back into this coming up. But we have Make or Miss. That's coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming. Oh, there we go. Coming up in the third hour, a friend of the program, Devon Pouncey, is going to be joining the show. A lot of fun stuff to talk to Pounce about. I got a sense he's probably on your side on this whole Cooper Flagg thing. I think I might be on an island. On this one.
Could be, but if he busts, you'll be like, "Hey, how's that non-island guys?"
I don't want to root for the kid to bust. I'm just saying, like, it's a practice game.
Hey, LeBron looked good in high school too.
You're right. I know.
He's being again, whether it's accurate or not, smarter basketball people than
Anthony
me.
Bennett probably looked good in high school in a scrimmage at some point.
It's not wrong. And although I don't, I still like, yeah, it's that you found the outlier.
I mean,
you found the outlier. You know, I love to bring that one up.
So you do. I'll bet you there was probably some scrimmage where Anthony Bennett was just like lighting everybody up. They're like, dude, this guy, program changer.
Oh, Anthony Bennett,
game changer.
I wonder if that dude realizes how many strays he takes. Not just from us. I doubt I'm the only person who's like, 2013, look at Anthony Bennett when Giannis was there.
He's like 11 years ago, dude. 11 years ago. Like,
I'm sure he just,
let it go.
Like, I think he plays in, like, China, so it's like
who takes more strays, him or Greg Oden? I think Greg Oden still takes more strays.
Yeah, I mean, Greg
But
Oden,
we don't talk about it here because obviously it's a little personal. But I would imagine when other people are talking about the draft and they want to bring up maybe somebody that didn't quite live up to the number one overall hype, I don't think Anthony Bennett's their go-to. We just do it because we're here.
Yeah, you know,
there's a reason why.
I'll say this, Justin. I think he might act because here's the thing that I've told people forever, and I've actually had people kind of agree. Greg Oden is a bust on health. Not talent. When you saw Greg Oden out there, you're like, okay, this dude can he was like a mini Embiid before Embiid.
Yeah.
But then you're like, Anthony Bennett, that was just a bust on talent. Like everyone just flat out missed. Oh, this dude has no foot speed. He can't shoot. So that part's kind of like we'll never know with old Greg, man.
It is also something we do that I call myself out as much as I call anybody else out. I like to think I'm one of the best at that because we're just here to have a good time and talk some sports. But it is one of the things that, like, if you really think about it, it is one of the meanest things we do as a sports community is talk about draft picks and whether they lived up to. I'm fairly certain Anthony Bennett didn't declare himself to be the number one draft pick. He just got picked there. It's not his fault. Trey Lance, right? Trey Lance is
that's a bad one.
But it's not like Trey Lance came out and said, everybody, I am a top 5 player in this league. You need to be drafting me top 5. I should, if not, then you're all idiot. Like, no, these guys are just trying to live their dream.
This, there were guys this year in this draft who were taken in the top 5 who had worse point per game averages than Anthony Bennett his 1 year at UNLV. So you never know.
And he didn't ask to be taken number 1. They just took him. He was just like, all right, I shall be. But who was it that took him? Minnesota?
Cleveland.
But we don't blast Cleveland or their scouts because they got it right on LeBron.
And they got LeBron the next year.
And they got it right on Kyrie. But poor Anthony Bennett is just like, sure?
Taking some strays.
Well, it's before he said the really bad thing on Twitch. It was always my thing about Myers Leonard. It's like, what should have Myers Leonard do? In 2016, when he got offered, what, $10 million?
Here for 4 years, yeah.
Should he have said, no, I'm not good enough. Please give me less. But yet, Blazer fans, we just hammered on him forever. It's like, okay, so he's not as good at basketball as you want him to be. It is one of the meanest things we do in a sports community. It really is. Oh, this guy was a bust. Like, well, he didn't ask to be, like, what if he had been a third rounder? You'd have never talked about him. The guy could just be living his life. Trey Lance, if he was a third round pick, he'd just be living his life as a backup in Dallas and be like, I'm good.
And the crazy part is, Justin, this draft that we just had, what did everybody compare it to? The Anthony Bennett draft, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was immediately bad as 2013, bad as 2013. And outside of Giannis and Victor Oladipo and Rudy Gobert,
CJ McCollum.
Yeah, not
He's a
all-star.
starter.
I love CJ, not all-star though, Justin, as we all know. But you know what I mean. Like, watch this class put out one or two guys, and we'll look back and go, yeah, not the best class.
It's just, man. But it's also like, it's going to be interesting to see what Cade Cunningham does with his career. But like, Wemby, he's going to be all right. I think he's going to. Banchero, they were in the playoffs year 2. See what Cade Cunningham does. I think Bickerstaff's a nice coach. Anthony Edwards, he might be the face of the league. Zion, I don't think we've seen the full story on Zion. DeAndre Ayton's a starter for the Blazers. Played in the NBA Finals. Markelle Fultz doesn't take a lot of strays.
I think that's because he nearly lost his arm. Remember that?
Yeah.
When he like had that.
And we all and by the way,
He had like that injection in his shoulder, had to relearn to shoot, and
Ben's-
all. Like, it was horrible what that kid had to go through.
And Ben Simmons doesn't take a lot of strays either. Was Ben Simmons okay?
Oh,
Let me
actually-
ask you this real
yeah.
quick. It's easy with revisionist history, but was Ben Simmons still the right pick for the Sixers? I think he was.
What year was that?
That was
2016?
2016. 6'11", 7-foot wingspan, distributing, defending point guard. He was Wemby before Wemby. Do you know what I mean?
And at that point,
And who would have known like what was ultimately going to? That's not a bad pick.
I'll say this: you wouldn't have taken Brandon Ingram over him at the time because Brandon Ingram was very raw, and you wouldn't have taken Jaylen Brown over him because Jaylen Brown was extremely raw.
I know, but yeah, redraft that one right now. Jaylen Brown's just MVP of the NBA Finals.
No, and it's funny you mentioned that, Justin. We'll get into make or miss.
Yes.
But Ben Simmons, I actually didn't know this, Justin. When the new CBA got ratified, we all know about the aprons now and everything. Did you know they basically put in a Ben Simmons clause? So that, and I actually found this out. So you're like, he doesn't catch a lot of strays, but they actually rewrote the CBA to make sure that a player can't do what he did, which was sit out, demand the trade.
Yeah.
Remember that
Keep
whole
collecting checks.
money and escrow and all that nightmare stuff? And they're like, yeah, we're not going to, like, players I don't think can just say, no, I'm not going to play anymore. So there's Ben Simmons definitely messed up player movement, that's for sure.
I'll bet. And again, I'm not rooting against Cooper Flagg, but like, I'll bet you there were some games Ben Simmons was playing as a 17-year-old where you're like, oh, that guy.
Ben Simmons wishes he could shoot like Cooper Flagg.
That's very true.
So I'll say that, Justin, you love tall guys who can shoot.
I do.
He's 6'10" and he can shoot threes.
I know. But
Come
I hate,
on, man.
But I hate white guys from Duke.
We'll have to get Pounces. Pounce will break the tie in the third hour, man. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Or Pounce will come in and be like, yeah, I don't like him either.
Who knows? I'm just saying it was a practice game, everybody. It was a practice game. All right, before we get to make or miss, I do want everybody to know about us here at Rip City Radio. We want to line your pockets with Grand Slam cash. Listen for the keywords every weekday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15s for your chance to win $1,000 13 times a day. It's Grand Slam cash from Rip City Radio, sponsored by the Hillsboro Hops. Get all the details at ripcityradio.com. Let's get to make or miss.
All right, firing up make or miss here on a Tuesday. Justin,
Yes.
a tech billionaire should buy the Boston Celtics.
So the Boston Celtics are going to be for sale.
I know it kind of went away with the whole holiday and everything, but that's still one of the bigger NBA news that's probably going to get remedied before the season starts, right?
All right, so who are the do we have candidates? Or let's make up some candidates. I don't think Elon Musk has any thoughts or really passions about American sports. He seems very nerdy.
Not that I've known. I know Bezos.
He's
Kicked the tires a little bit. The Commanders before he got pushed out there.
I think, and I'm talking like I know Jeff Bezos.
He waiting for
I think he's waiting for the NBA to make the Sonics a team again.
Or what if the Allen estate has to sell the Seahawks?
I think he might be waiting for that as well.
Right?
They're going
just
to
think
have
about
to.
it,
They have
right?
to sell the Seahawks. That's part of. It's
do
the
they?
same part of the deal.
Is it 15 still more years? 20 years though?
That the timeline is a factor, but and again, I am not a probate lawyer. I'm married to a lawyer, but I'm not a probate lawyer. But I believe it was both Seahawks and Blazers, and the money goes to charity. Because again, the turtles, like the sea life. What about the marine life? All of that, because I think it's going to say like to clean up the oceans and all that.
I doubt.
I don't know what, but so they think the Seahawks are part of that. I believe so.
Yeah, so let's throw in a couple more names.
But I think Bezos is waiting for Seattle for the Seahawks to get a team. He basically redid Climate Pledge Arena to be a home for the
NBA
new
team.
Sonics. So I think that's where Bezos is going to go.
What about Mark Zuckerberg? Would he ever
He's a
have any
nerd.
interest in sports?
Too big of a nerd.
Think so?
Now he is he went to Harvard. Harvard is right there. So he has some. Okay. Of all the tech billionaires or the famous tech billionaires, Elon might have probably the worst reputation. Zuckerberg's probably second, right?
Nobody
Because
really
we watched.
Nobody hates Bezos. And we all love Amazon.
But like Zuckerberg had a movie made about him where it made him look like a total, let's call it a jerk. It's not the word I want to use, but
Elon's
I can't get fined today.
He's had some moments.
And Elon with the whole Twitter thing and just being outspoken, which whatever, you're a billionaire, you get to do whatever you want. Do you think like Zuckerberg could, because Zuckerberg's kind of ruined the world. He really has. Like Facebook is not a good place. Some may say it made it better. I think social media, I think we're at a net negative in terms of the way it has affected our lives. If he became the owner of the Celtics and they won a lot, does Zuckerberg change his image? Because, like, the best thing ever for Mark Cuban as a billionaire was to be the cool owner in sports.
I think it would need, as lazy as it sounds, I think it would need to be somebody on the East Coast who's based up in the, because you're like all those guys.
But Zuckerberg is from the East Coast.
True, lives in California, though.
He moved everything to California, but I don't know. Who else is out there?
Well, let's just
Robert Kraft? Does Robert Kraft want to buy him?
Yeah, look at the numbers, like pure billionaires.
I don't know if Robert Kraft has enough money.
Yeah.
He'd have to.
Larry Ellison is a guy who's tried to get into pro sports for a long
Is that
time.
Google?
Oracle.
Oracle.
Now he's been
Oracle.
He's kind of been blacklisted out of owning a sports team. He probably won't get one. Do Larry and Sergey want a team?
Yeah, does Google want a team?
As they're worth almost $200 each.
$200 billion
each. And like even Elon's like 280. So you put them together, they're both the richest dudes in the world. So like, could Larry and Sergey be interested? We know Bill Gates.
Do you ever think Larry and Sergey had like a beef, but they knew like we can't, like, I hate you right now, but if I like, it would cost me billions of dollars if I split up this partnership. But I really hate you right now. Like Hall and Oates can split up, and right, and it's like they have to sue each other. But Larry, like those two guys, like billions of dollars were at stake if they actually like broke up their partnership.
Yeah, nerding out a little bit, and I only know this because I'm kind of obsessed with random things like this. But the reason they are both so rich is kind of like, you know how like if you put all the Walton heirs together, Walmart family, they would be the richest person in the world. The way that Larry and Sergey basically, they broke Google into two and said, this is your half of Google, this is my half of Google.
Yeah, kind of like Outkast did with the double album they did when they got Hey Ya.
Good reference.
Thank you.
But we're like, because we do
speaker box and then like, hey, Andre 3000, you got to make Hey Ya. Big boy, you got to go.
Basically, Justin, this was to prevent a Paul Allen, Bill Gates thing. Because as much as we love Paul Allen kind of got pennies compared to what Bill Gates is worth, right? Larry and Sergey made it to where it's like, well, Google will not be around if they ever get rid of one of us when we're still want to do it. So, like, they're so set. I mean, Bill Gates on that list. Steve Ballmer owns a team. Warren Buffett is way too old to own a team.
Oh, sorry, I don't.
Dude, how about Oregon State's guy? He is literally 11th on the list now, Justin. This is insane. If he's not going to help out Oregon State, go buy the Celtics.
So, all right, I've got this list. It's from Statista. It might be right. It might be wrong. I don't know. It's the first thing that popped up on Google. But yeah, Elon, Bezos, They're both $1 billion off. Don't think they don't know that. Zuck, Ellison, Buffett, Bill Gates, Ballmer, who has a team already,
Yes.
and then Larry and Sergey both sitting at 114 and 110, separate, combined $200 billion. Bloomberg's still kicking. Michael Dell surprises me because, dude, you're getting a Dell obviously changed all of our lives. I don't know anybody that has a Dell computer anymore. Do we have any in the office?
I'm like looking around.
I don't know.
We used to. It got replaced by an HP, Justin. So we used to have a Dell on the backside here, but it got replaced.
And then there you go. There's your guy, Jensen Huang.
The dude is so rich. I don't even like
$77 billion.
He is so stinking rich. I don't know why Oregon State just can't have $8 billion.
If only the football players would have maybe been a little bit nicer to him when he was in Corvallis.
Like I said, he must have been bullied, man. I want to tell all, and I want to know, Jensen, how much did Oregon State football hurt you?
Why won't you just give $1 billion?
It's a tax write-off for a dude that rich, Justin. Come on. But
there is Brenden. There is one name, interestingly, just hanging around there.
What do you got?
Phil Knight's still got $40 billion.
Well, he tried.
Now, he tried to buy the Blazers.
He did.
Now, again, does he have any interest in buying the Celtics?
Could you imagine?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Probably not, because, again, I act like I know Phil Knight. I don't. I read Shoe Dog.
So crazy cool.
But it seemed like the Blazer thing, it doesn't seem like he wants to own a pro team. He wants to have a footprint here in the city of Portland.
Right, I agree.
Which is interesting because we didn't connect with Fentress yesterday. We're going to have Fentress back on the show on Thursday. But Aaron Fentress put something out, and something that I love doing, which is spending billionaires' money, which is what we have been doing here, I don't know, for the last 8 minutes. At what point is Phil Knight going to be like, how about this, Jody? $5 billion. That's likely $2 billion over market value, but it's like, here it is. I'm 86. I want to own the Blazers. I want my footprint in the city. $5 billion. It all goes to charity. It's overvalued. At what point do you think we get to that? I don't know.
So it's actually crazy, Justin. We just hit the Rubicon, actually. So it's been 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Since Phil Knight and Alan Smolinski decided to put that bid together. Why do you think there was never a counter bid? Because obviously we found out Jody hung up that phone maybe before it was even answered.
Yeah.
But why do you think there was only one bid? And they didn't go,
if I'm going to give an opinion on this, it is coming completely out of my backside because I don't know.
Why was there, here's 3.5.
That being said, it sounded like it got a little bit personal. There was a thing. There was some stories released, and
there were.
I think that's where it came down to. And I don't know if a counter was presented. So I don't know, but it's going to be do we get to a point, maybe someday, I don't know, where Phil Knight just says, all right, bleep it. $5 billion. He's 86.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying. Phil Knight's not getting any younger, and I just wonder if there's a.
But also, he's a guy that maybe stands on principle that's like, I'm not going to overpay. I'm not going to make a bad business decision.
Can't take that money with you, though.
Exactly, but it's also not.
Just saying,
but it's not our money either.
We don't love spend, but I'm just saying you can't take it with you. Can your family inherit it all?
Penny's sitting there going like, guys,
I know, right?
Easy there. All right.
I know, right?
So, yeah, this is Zuckerberg by the. That'd be so weird if all of a sudden you're Jason Tatum and you're like, hey, boss, and it's Mark Zuckerberg.
I know, that'd be so cool. I'm not going to lie.
All right, coming up next, it is Tuesday. It is going to be hot as blazes out there, which gets me grumpy enough as it is. So get off my lawn. Coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, hey, the Portland Trailblazers want to invite you to Pup City, presented by Tavo, a 1.4-kilometer walk around Moda Center for Rip City fans and their dogs to get together this offseason. Check out both dog and human-friendly vendors like Stumptown Coffee, Portland Pet Food, Blue Star Donuts, and more. Each ticket purchase receives entry, Pup City swag, stuff we all get, a ticket to an early season Blazer game, and a donation to a nonprofit partner, one tail at a time. So get the complete details at RipCityRadio.com. Pup City Blazer Dog Walk Around Moda Center. All right. Now, dogs make me very, very happy. I love dogs. I love my dog. I love your dog. I am a big fan of dogs. I do this thing now where, when I take Crash on a walk, and you'll see other people walking their dog, and they'll get a little hesitant. He's like, no, you just smile at the dog. Dogs make me happy. Tuesdays make me a bit grumpy. Now, it makes it a little bit easier when it is a Tuesday of a week where I'm going to be heading out on vacation fairly soon. But, when that mercury gets around 100 degrees, I think, boy, it just gets all of us just a little bit grumpy. Even people like Brenden and myself, who love the sunshine, but man, triple digits is a different level. So all that being said, it is Tuesday. It is the grumpiest day of the week. It is going to be hot as blazes again today. So rather than let that fester and start yelling at the people you love, well, we're just going to let it out right now and embrace our grumpiness with the segment we call Get Off My Lawn. All right, for the past couple of weeks, Brenden, because vacation is coming, Kelly and myself have been doing some projects around the house, trying to get some stuff done. Also, just little DIY stuff to save a little bit of money because, we're doing vacation right, if you know what I'm saying. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to get some stuff done around the house, and some of that stuff has been painting some stuff that we've been. Now, I hate painting. Have you ever painted a house? Painted the inside of a house?
I've done some stuff.
I hate painting.
Not so much fun.
It's not fun. Now, the difference a fresh coat of paint can make on a room, it is amazing. It is amazing what a fresh coat of paint can do. But that being said, I am not a fan of painting. There is one particular part of painting, though, that I am even more grumpy about today. Paint can lids. You all need to get off my lawn. How have we not found a better way to attach and detach a paint can lid other than pry it off with a screwdriver and hammer it back on with a hammer? We have resealable packages for hot dogs now. All right? I bought some cheese the other day. Went with pepper jack, which I believe is the king of sliced cheeses. Cheese, meats, fresh produce, salad in a bag. Guess what they all have? Resealable. Unless you do like me and get real excited and then open it up. Have you ever done that before where you open it up and then you rip the resealable thing? And so then
I call that opening it up like an ape. Yep, just tear it apart to shreds. It's remember that episode of The Office where Michael destroys the box? It's like he opened it like an ape. I think we can fix it. Same thing.
I've done that a couple of times where I get a little too excited.
Just
going
in every direction.
Get in here, Dots, pretzels.
Yeah,
it's like all
I
of a
know
sudden,
what you mean.
Now the resealable thing's gone. But they at least have the option of the resealable thing, right? Dots, pretzels, coffee. Everything's got a resealable thing. Why is it the paint cans still in our lives? You have to pry it. Now, again, I don't pry it off with a screwdriver. They give you a little key at the paint store. So I know that. They give you a little key. Also, by the way, that little key, very easy to lose. Very easy to lose. But there was a thing. We had to paint, we're painting some shelves. And they're going to take a couple of coats of paint. Well, you've got to paint it on. You got to let it dry. Then you got to, bust it back out, repaint second coat. And that entire time, guess what you got to do? You got to pop the lid off, set the lid upside down so it doesn't. And by the way, the lid's got paint everywhere. Have you ever taken a paint lid off and not gotten paint on your hands? That's impossible. So then you take the paint can off, you stir it up, and then you paint it up and down. And then to get it, you got to put it back on. Bam, bam, bam. Hammer it on only to like 18 hours later when second coat comes, got to How in a world where we reseal and seal up everything have paint cans and the people of big paint to Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin, could the Dutch boy, Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, Bear, can the 5 families of the paint world all get together and just decide we need a better way? We need a better way. And by the way, you ever gotten a paint sample? You get these little paint samples because that's when I talked about when your wife grabs the tape measure. That's one thing. Oh, when your wife has the paint samples.
You get the book?
And we get the book. And then the book is where you then order the sample. The sample, you put a swatch on the wall because you got to see it. How does the light hit it and everything else? Married guys out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Is you get the tape measure out and wife gets the swatches going on the wall. Like, which one do you think? They all look the same to me. Those come in a plastic screw top. Well, if it's good enough for the paint samples, how come the gallon of paint can't come in, something with a good handle, screw top? And while I'm on it with paint cans, all right, can we maybe figure out a way to pour the paint out a little less sloppy? Oh, Justin, they make accessories. I don't want accessories. Could you imagine if every time you poured a thing of milk, it just spilled halfway down? Or anytime you poured like a soda out of a 2-liter, it just spilled down the side? Well, that's every paint can I've ever had. Because you can't pour it out into the tray with the roller without it dripping down. All I'm saying is, how is it that it is 2024 and we are still using paint can technology from 1954? How is that still a thing? How have the 5 families of paint, how have Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams, I don't know if that's one guy or two, but and Bear with an H, but it still has a Bear with an EA, but it's Bear with an H. How have we not gotten this figured out? So, to the paint people and whoever is in charge there at Big Paint, who is keeping the paint cans and the stupid lids and the popping them off and then hammering them home and then can't pour them out, to all of you, I say, definitively, on this soon-to-be 100-degree day, you can just get right off my lawn. Just get right off my lawn. Should be easier to paint some. And by the way, I haven't even gotten to where the brushes and the things you have to do to keep brushes clean.
Mm-hmm.
That might be next week. Next week I'll be coming back from vacation. Maybe I'll be a little more zen. But dogs make me happy. You know what else makes me happy? My dog, Devon Pouncey. He joins the show live in studio next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. NFL numbers are in from last season. The league is making $13 billion in revenue, each team getting a $400 million cut of revenue. Knicks point guard Jalen Brunson could take up to $100 million less on his next contract if he signs an extension this year to help keep the Knicks a contender and avoid the second apron. And Duke signee Cooper Flagg stole the show at Team USA practice. We're talking about practice? Practice. More than holding his own against the top players in the league. Coming up in hour number 3, friend of the program, Devon Pouncey, joins us live in studio. Team USA, Summer League on the way. Cooper Flagg took over the internet yesterday, and Steph says dynasties are over in the NBA. We'll get his thoughts on all that and a whole lot more as we start hour 3 of Rip City Morning right now on 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Very excited to welcome back to the big show our friend who joins us in studio each and every Tuesday, our Rip City Mornings official basketball analyst, Devon Pouncey, back on the big show. Also, may I say, we have been doing a very good job of coordinating our outfits.
Yeah, we have, man. We have been, huh? We got this. But you know, I've always been Mr. Top Button.
You are Mr. Top Button.
I'm Mr. Top Button. I like to take it all the way up top.
I think that is more generational than cultural. Brenden, are you a top button guy on the polo?
No, I don't usually. No, don't button up the top button.
And even though this is like a collarless.
That's the Henley, yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite a polo, but yeah, I usually. I mean, either that or you going 2-3 buttons down.
One
As
button.
a kid, I was like, no, you don't
that's probably a
button
new
up all the way.
generation thing too. Now you go out and the new swag today is
So it's either top button or all.
or
down
just-
to the belt.
just
Okay, I
about-
see it.
Just about, especially, in this time of year, hot weather, a lot of taco meat showing.
Speaking of taco meat, just let that simmer. Brenden, you go just the one button on the like the polo?
Usually.
I don't think I've ever seen you in a. I know you've worn a suit like when you go work Blazer games, and I know you probably dress more professionally when you go to the press box, which I've never. But it's very early in the morning. I don't think I've ever seen you in like a polo shirt.
Oh yeah, the full suit. You got to go all the way up so you can tie your tie.
Well, that's true.
Tie
Yeah.
your tie and everything. Well, I mean, I guess you don't have to, but it'd look a little weird. Like Beaver games, I'm always wearing a collared shirt. But yeah, first button. I think I gotta leave it open, man.
I go first button open. But Pounce, he's a top button
Yeah,
guy.
man.
Riding
you
it,
know.
man.
I just do what I do, man, and I have fun with it. That's all.
And we embrace it. We love it.
Got to.
All right. We got to talk about this first and foremost.
Yeah.
Because Brenden and I don't want to say it got contentious this morning,
Just
but
a little heated, maybe.
emotions are riding high.
In a great fun way. I say that.
I saw some video on the internet yesterday. You probably saw it
I did.
as well of Cooper Flagg, who is going to be going to Duke. He's the
Yes.
#1 rated recruit right now in high school basketball. He is going to Duke, and obviously going to be likely a one-and-done guy, going to make a ton of NIL. And there was already talk before yesterday about how, because the draft class this year was not the best, that Cooper Flagg is going to be he's going to be the flag bearer for next year's draft class, and that there are going to be teams that are going to be tanking
Yeah.
for Cooper Flagg, a.k.a. capture the flag. I stole that from the internet. And I saw multiple Blazer media and Blazer fans basing off of a handful of clips
Yeah.
of him practicing against Team USA, practicing in a scrimmage of
Yeah.
like, yep, there it is, tank the season away, done deal. That's why you tank. Let's go and I'm just like, pump the brakes a little bit.
Why?
I think there are probably a lot of other good players
Uh-huh.
that if you would have watched them in a practice game environment when they were 17, could have been filling it up just
Yeah.
as much.
Agreed.
But I think we're getting a little too over our skis on the Cooper Flagg thing. Part of it, I think he's a white guy.
Help me out, Pounce. Tell me he's going to be a star.
I know that's what you were reaching for.
I mean,
I know that's
I
what
didn't
you were
even go
fishing
there.
for.
He went there.
And you got me.
And I got you.
Because I brought up
Yeah.
a guy that we love talking about,
Uh-huh.
Anthony Edwards. I'd be willing to bet that if you saw Anthony Edwards playing in a scrimmage game against pros
Yeah.
at the age of 17,
He go off.
but nobody was tanking for Anthony Edwards. Nobody was talking about how you have to tank away the season. Now, I realize that tanking is part of the NBA.
Yeah.
And if you are not getting better, you better be getting worse, because the worst you could be is right in the middle. I think it might be my lifelong hatred of white guys that play for Duke.
That's a thing.
Where I'm just like,
Has there ever been one this talented, though? Like, honestly, just honestly asking.
I don't know, because all I've seen of him play is a practice game
Yeah.
at the age of 17. He hadn't even played a game in the ACC yet.
I mean, for one, he is definitely a freak athlete. I give him that, which, again, that's based on your description of him. We're not used to always saying that. You used to saying
is he
guys are
sneaky athletic?
shooters. He's sneaky athletic.
Good hustle guy, glue
Good
guy.
hustle guy.
He
like,
is a gym rat.
he's
A glue
he's
guy.
gym-
Probably a coach's kid.
Great athlete. He's been around. You can tell he's been around the game quite some time. But
Student of the game.
student of the game. Exactly.
Just hitting them all.
I do think that the internet may have been a little bit reactionary because of the setting that he did it in. I think that probably played a part more so than, he did play well. He balled out. But,
He did.
But I do think that just because it was against Team USA, you look at the names that are playing, for Team USA, and it doesn't matter what it is, what circumstance it doesn't matter if you're at Rucker Park. It doesn't matter if you're in an NBA game. It doesn't matter if you're at Summer League training camp. If you ball out on a court amongst all of those guys, you could be at Rico Hines out in L.A. If you ball out on the court amongst those guys, the internet is going to react to that because of who you did it against, not that maybe those guys you did it against weren't going 100%, not because they were particularly trying to shut you down. They're trying to get some reps, and they're preparing to get ready to go play in the Olympics in Paris. But nonetheless, though, Cooper Flagg he's like that. Like I said, really good athlete and can really ball out. He's going to Duke for a reason. So maybe, again, because of the setting, folks were maybe a little bit more reactionary than they should have been. But that doesn't mean he's not that dude.
It doesn't. It doesn't mean that. And
Yeah.
I think here's the two the two issues that I brought up is one, I think it's just the overall tanking culture in the NBA.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I understand that I am wrong about that, though. To succeed in the NBA at a certain level, at a certain market, you have to. I get it. The thing I hate most about tanking is that it works.
Especially with Wemby.
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg ain't Wemby. So if you compare it to
I don't know
that,
if you read the internet yesterday.
yeah, I'm not. I don't have to. I'm just here to tell y'all, it's not the same.
So I think that's the overall kind of tanking culture is that when you see, oh, hey, this guy is going to be at the top of the draft, great. Let's win 20 games this year. Well,
Yeah.
that's I don't like that at all. So I think that was maybe the first part of it, and just the kind of the overall idea of like this is going to be a game changer. It's like, well, he hasn't played a college game yet.
Yeah.
And so I think probably that's my biggest beef. I don't think he's not going to be that dude. He's number one player in the country for a reason.
Mhm.
He's going to Duke for a reason. All of that. He's on the select team for a reason. They don't
Yeah.
just let guys come and play unless, your dad's LeBron James. Then you get to play wherever you want. But, obviously all that's for a reason. He very well could be the number one player in the draft. It's just the idea that because you saw this guy in a scrimmage
To go tank to get him.
to go like, hey, let's just lose 62 games this year.
Yeah, for sure. No, I get what you're saying. I think I never like condone or I never just say go out and tank. I understand why it happens. I'm not like totally against tanking, but I'm all about the competition element of things. So like you'll never hear me just flat out say, oh yeah, I love tanking, or try to encourage anybody or any team to go tank. I was raised in an era where if you didn't go out and compete to the hardest level, you're liable to get hurt and get off the floor. So
Yeah.
I'm just not wired to really like advocate for tanking in that kind of a way. But what I will say, like you said, it has worked. I mean, number one picks, guys like Wemby, Cooper Flagg, we'll see. But in the past, there has been number one guys that you tank for, and it has certainly paid off. So I'm not saying that there isn't any proof that the concept can be successful. And then number two, just because of, me calling G League games and sort of my like newer position and really having a better grasp and understanding of two-way players and G League players and getting call-ups and things like that, I kind of have this newfound interest, in particular in organizations that are tanking, because I know that they're G League guys who should be pros. They ain't number one picks, but who should be pros. And sometimes it's just more about situation and circumstance than it is their ability to play at that level and thrive. And I kind of look at that now for these guys that are developing and they're going to get more opportunities to get called up to play in the league. A lot of guys whose games I got to call throughout the course of the season, and being able to follow them kind of takes my mind off the fact that teams are actually out here tanking, which isn't, again, particularly how I'm wired to advocate for.
There is going to be something, and it's going to happen over the next 2 to 3 to 4, maybe even 5 years, maybe even longer. And we've talked about it in a different sense and a different subject. There is going to be an Eminem effect with Cooper Flagg, because
See it coming.
Because there is the whole, and again, I don't claim to know hip hop.
Yeah,
I'm a fan.
We've talked about it,
but I don't know. But I think Eminem's really good.
Yeah,
there are a lot of people that will say, well, Eminem's only recognized because he obviously looks different than everyone else and because he is white. And then there are other people like 50 Cent who'll be like, what are you talking about? That's the guy right there. That's the guy,
for sure.
And I think there's going to be a lot of those arguments coming up
with
regard to Cooper, because he is incredibly good.
Yeah.
And I think Brenden and I were talking about, like, you think about American-born white guys.
Yeah.
Right? Chet Holmgren was from a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think before that, you got to go back to what? Kevin Love? It just not a lot at the top end of the draft of, like, American-born white guys. And so there's going to be an Eminem argument of Cooper Flagg of, like, is he getting too much shine? Well, we're seeing it already with Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
We've talked about that for sure, where, you kind of get this target. You're coming into a league where the demographic just doesn't quite favor you from a majority and a minority standpoint. You're probably the majority in most other settings that you're in, but you're just not in this one. And that's just quite the reality of the thing. And, so a little bit of reckoning will happen, and, guys will try to take it to them. And again, it is a part of the fabric of competition. In my opinion, I've played on teams that were all black teams. And, when you go and play against guys that aren't black, sometimes it's like boxing. Boxing is another example where, like, racial pride definitely seeps into the competition element of it. And it's not like a hateful thing, but again, you could take pride in who it is you identify with. That's not a problem, even if that seeps over into competition sometimes. Just don't be a hater.
Did you ever see? We got to wrap it up real quick, but Great White Hype, the old boxing movie.
Yeah.
The Irish Tommy Conklin. It's like, I'm not Irish. Don't worry. It just means you're white. All right. We got to get to the break. I do want to tell you about Ticket Tuesday. That's today. It's going to be later on this afternoon. Chance to win Hillsboro Hops, exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. Listen to Rip City Drive this afternoon and every Tuesday for your chance to win. Get your Hops tickets now at hillsborohops.com. We continue with Pounce next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, welcome back to Rip City Mornings. Devon Pouncey, our good friend, still live in studio for the entire third hour, and a lot of basketball stuff to get to here in the next 20 or so minutes. So we're going to kind of go rapid fire. I want to start here. Steph Curry said dynasties are over. It essentially said when you look at the way the NBA is changing the salary structure with the first apron, the second apron, and just teams not being able to essentially do what the Warriors did, which was keep their core three in him, Clay, and Draymond, and then was still able to bring in a guy like Kevin Durant for a handful of years. And it doesn't look like that's going to be possible to keep everybody, pay everybody for a long period of time.
Right.
So first, let's start with this. What do you kind of consider a dynasty? Because we were talking about this yesterday. I think there's a couple of different definitions. One is you just look at championships, right?
Yeah.
That's super easy.
Right.
And championships have to be factored in. But the other thing, and I go back to what Steph Curry said, that I was like, he's right. For a good 10 years, the Warriors had a chance to win a championship.
Yes.
They won 4 of them.
Yeah.
But for 10 years, for a decade, they had a chance to win a championship. I think of like the Spurs. Spurs never went back-to-back.
Yeah.
But for about 12 years, they had a chance. The Lakers, for, they lost one to the Pistons. They lost one in the Western Conference Finals to the Spurs.
Yeah.
They lost one to the Celtics, won their fair share of 5 with Kobe. But for a good 11, 12 years, they had a chance to win. So I think in that sense, I don't know if we're going to see a team be able to go on a decade-long run into the future with the same core guys and maybe the same head coach and be a legitimate finals contender for a decade or more. I don't know if that's going to happen into the future.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen either, and that's definitely been what the NBA has been like based on dynasties for such a long time. But I still wouldn't consider the amount of chances or opportunities that you were considered to be a contender as the reason why you're a dynasty. It always has and always will boil down to winning championships.
Yeah.
You can go to as many finals, as many, contending in conference finals, whatever the case may be, for a long time. So I understand what the element that he's speaking of, but regardless of how many chances you had, you still won 4 of them. And that's the reason why you can call yourself a dynasty. The Lakers, you still won 5 of them. Tim Duncan and the Spurs still won 5 of them. The Bulls 6. Like, the list goes on and on. So, yeah, regardless of, being able to keep a core together and all of those things, like, to me, a dynasty is and will always be about how many championships you win in a time frame, not how many chances you got to you had to, on paper, go to a championship, or even if it is a matter of going on a bunch of consecutive deep playoff runs and not finishing the job, it'll always be about finishing the job for me in order to be an actual dynasty. The rest is fluff.
And so here's where it gets interesting is obviously to be a dynasty, you're right. You got to win championships. Back-to-backs help.
Yes.
3 in a row really solidifies it, right?
You're in.
But back-to-backs kind of other than really the Spurs are the only team that's been able to kind of pull it off without winning a back-to-back, and some will even maybe challenge that were they really a dynasty?
Yes, they were.
I think so.
Yes, they were.
I agree.
Because they won 5 of them.
But you look at, let's go back to like 2019, which is the end of the Warriors' kind of run with Kevin Durant. Now they did pop back up like the zombie at the end of the horror movie in 2022. But you had Toronto Raptors win a championship. After that, Kawhi goes to the Clippers, and Toronto had no chance. Now, we also went into COVID that next year.
You're right.
But Toronto had no chance of going back-to-back.
Yeah.
Lakers go into the bubble. They win the championship in the bubble. The next year, I think they were in the play-in.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. I think that was the first year of the play-in, right? Because they created a play-in in the bubble to try to make it so Zion could go into the bubble.
Yeah.
And then they were like, this is a good idea. And it was Lakers-Warriors. LeBron saw 3 rims.
Yep, you're right.
But that was, they were an 8 or a 9 seed. They were not in really a position to go back-to-back after that.
Yeah.
Then the Milwaukee Bucks won it. That next year, I think they were out in the second round.
Yeah.
Then the Warriors won it. The next year after that, they were back in the play-in again.
Yeah.
Denver wins it. Denver goes out in the second round. And so on and so. Like, you really have not had. Now, the Celtics might be changing all of this right now. And I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah,
I know.
Watch out, world.
But from 2019 to this last year, we haven't even seen a team that had a chance to go back-to-back.
I'm looking at some of these young teams. I'm looking at the Boston Celtics. I think they're a team that, coming into next season and even with the offseason free agency moves, still don't see a team better. So I'm definitely looking out for them. I also think a team that, once they kind of crack the code and get the job done, similar to what Tatum and Brown was able to do this year, that'll be a threat to be a dynasty, will be a team like OKC. I think OKC has just, put together a really young core. It's still, yes, I get what Steph's saying from the salary cap standpoint, but it still really comes down to being able to put together a youthful core as well, to be able to even have a chance at a dynasty. You're not going to do it, bringing a bunch of superstars together. You might get one out of the deal, which is usually the objective, but having, even like I said, with Steph, Clay, and Dre, they were in it together young. And then KD came along after they had already won a championship. And then the Warriors kind of became a commodity in the league and were able to start getting guys in free agency that actually wanted to play in Golden State. But you're still going to always have to do it with a young core. Now, the super teams, the big threes, those types of experiments having a chance at becoming a dynasty, very slim to none to me. But I still think that you can get it done with a young core that just kind of grows together. And, eventually things will kind of break apart as their value goes up and they continue to win. And Steph kind of mentioned in the salary cap, but I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that we are officially out of the dynasty era. I think you can still get it done.
All right, you are going to be heading to Vegas on Thursday. You're going down for Summer League.
That's
First,
right.
we're going to be, I think it's Saturday is when the Blazers play their first Summer League game. It's going to be the first time we get to see Donovan Clingan.
For sure.
No Scoot Henderson. I was a bit surprised that Scoot wasn't going down to Summer League, but also I kind of understand it. Like, he's the starting point guard of the Portland Trail Blazers next year. There'll be plenty of games for him and Clingan. But heading into Summer League, obviously Clingan is going to be the guy that a lot of people are going to be watching. I know there's a lot of guys who you covered on the remix that are on that roster. What's going to be going on in Summer League?
I'm excited about that with Summer League overall. I've even been, checking out some of the games. Some of the remix guys from last season are already playing well. Everybody tuned in for Bronny's game.
Yeah, 4-2-2.
Yeah,
look out.
Yeah. But on the other end was a guy by the name of Antoine Davis who went 6 for 9 from 3 and played.
There was another guy in that game.
Yeah, exactly.
There was another player
playing for that Kings Summer League team, and he was a rookie on the remix last year and led the G League in 3-pointers made. Adonis Arms, somebody else who I've covered who was really good, had a big game. You had Council last night, and so I'm excited. On the Blazers standpoint, I'm excited to see Murray and what he does out there, on this Summer League roster. Roops is back. Ryan Rupert, he's back, and he's somebody whose development I'm really intrigued by because he's so young, but he's got all the tools in the making of what will end up eventually becoming a really great a really great NBA career. Then you got a 3-point specialist in Big Country, Alex Reese. And I'm excited to see him get some Summer League action. So, really excited for the remix guys that'll be out there getting their chance. And then, obviously, as you mentioned, excited to see Clingan. I just want to see him block a few shots. That's all. I don't
stay
need
healthy.
Stay healthy, block some shots, and get out of there. We'll see it. You'll see it when camp comes around and preseason, and then ultimately the season in October. So just pin a couple off the glass for me, and I'm happy with that from Donovan Clingan, and then make your way on out and stay healthy. But definitely for the remix guys and the G League guys that I've covered for the remix, and obviously have called games for, that played on opposing teams. It's already been really cool to see how productive they are in Summer League in this early start of it during like the California Classic and stuff. So excited to see more in Vegas.
Speaking of Vegas, Team USA is down there. We talked about with Cooper Flagg and part of the select team, but I don't want to say I'm worried about Team USA, but I am I'm intrigued by this dynamic. I don't know if you saw this quote, and you have been on Anthony Edwards
I saw it.
from day one, and I credit you for putting me on Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
And because you were like, dude, watch this guy. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards, going to be playing on a team with LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. Guys that are going to the Hall of Fame. All-time, maybe the greatest the greatest shooter of all time, one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest bucket getters of all time.
Yeah.
In Kevin Durant. And Anthony Edwards said, yeah, I'm the number one option.
He's right.
Said, I'm the number one option. Said, you might look at it different, but I don't. And you might think, oh, is he joking? He's like,
He's right.
this guy's not joking.
He's not joking.
So here's what I remember 1992. I remember the Dream Team. And we look back on the Dream Team with some revisionist history a little bit because obviously the competition wasn't there. But a lot of people still believed in 1992, as crazy as it is what we saw, that Magic Johnson was going to be running the Dream Team.
For sure.
Like, yeah, Magic's on the team. He's picking the team. And there was a lot of fans who were not yet ready to crown Michael Jordan. Now, I was 12.
Yeah.
So Michael Jordan had been crowned the summer before. And it took a couple of practices and it took a couple of instances where Michael Jordan was like, no, this is not only my team, this is my league.
Yes.
I take on. I don't know if LeBron James is going to be as willing as maybe Magic Johnson was back in 1992 to give up. Is LeBron James going to be able to, at times, take on what looks like maybe an ambassador role?
Yes, and I don't
in
think
terms of he's a figurehead, you're going to sign autographs and you're going to be there. But Anthony Edwards is the guy on this team.
Yeah.
Can LeBron accept that?
I don't think it's a matter of whether he can accept it or not. I think it's a matter of Anthony Edwards is going to go out there and take it, just like he did against KD in the first round of the playoffs this season. 4-0 sweep, out of here. Lakers, y'all didn't have a good season this year.
Mm-hmm.
Warriors, y'all didn't have a good season this year. So when you consider the older guard, if you will, that are legends and are cemented in the history books, Hall of Famers, all-time greats, that'll never get taken away from them. But what can get taken away from them is that rock by Anthony Edwards, and he's going to go out there and he's going to take number one option type shots out there. And I think when you look at what happened in the NBA season, when you look at the success of American-born players, when it comes to those deep playoff runs that are on this particular team this season in comparison to a lot of the guys that are not American-born players that, went on some pretty significant playoff runs, I think you're looking down the line, and if you're Anthony Edwards and you're saying, yeah, this is my team. Like, look what just happened all these past 8 or 9 months of the NBA season. I was better than all of you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you come in with that kind of confidence, and whether the old guard likes it or not, Anthony Edwards is basically letting it be known, I'm not moving out the way for y'all. So if it's got to be a clash, it's got to be a clash, but I'm coming for that number one spot. I respect it.
Because that's going to be the difference from back in 1992 and even like the 96 team or the 2000 team is that there was nobody that could give USA a game. Right?
Yeah.
It didn't matter who was kind of the big deal in 1992 was the practices.
Yeah.
That was where the league dynamic shifted, and Michael Jordan clearly took over. Plus, Magic was out of the league by 92. Larry Bird was soon to be out of the league because he had back problems. But Michael Jordan asserted himself. There was no team that could give them a game. France is going to give USA a game.
Yes, they are.
Spain's going to be able to give USA a game. Who else? Who else is good? I know
Puerto Rico, I think, qualified, but yeah.
But don't sleep on Team Canada.
Canada.
Canada
That's the team
has
that'll
got
give you a game.
some-
You are
some
100% correct.
Teams that can give Team USA a game, and there's going to be a time, maybe not like the whole, hey, it's last shot, who gets, but there's going to be like 4 minutes left, fourth quarter. It's 2, 3, 4 point game against Team Canada or against Spain, and it's Steve Kerr, who's going to be the head. Like, is he going to let the players figure it out?
Right.
Is he going to say, no, here's the rotation? Is Steve Kerr, who I think could, because I think he's got Eric Spoelstra and Ty Lue as his assistants.
Yeah.
He's got some LeBron whisperers.
Yes, he does.
He's got some LeBron whisperers on the staff. But is Steve Kerr going to be able to be like, no, LeBron, Ant's taking over. right now, and we need you to
I,
step aside. That's where it's going to get
I agree.
interesting.
I agree, but again, I don't think Steve Kerr's going to have to do it. I think Ant is just going to just swoop in and get the job done. I think he's going to come out, play with a high motor. I think he's going to, get his points early and really like establish himself early on as the guy. And clearly that's the mentality that he's coming into this thing with. So I think it'll kind of naturally ease into, Ant is the guy. He's probably like the leading scorer of our team right now. He's going off, and like we're not going to not give him the ball in clutch moments based on the way he's playing.
Brenden, you think LeBron's going to be able to just step aside? If in fact it comes down to that, now maybe they'll find some harmonious basketball thing and be able to play great basketball together.
So
I don't know I'm with you, Pounce. I agree.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards
He's
not
gonna take it. He's
He
not
is going to
backing
take
down.
it, but will LeBron James accept that?
So my question is, and I'll say this, Anthony Edwards, extremely talented guy. But if there's always been one thing that my eyebrows kind of perked up about, it's like he says some stuff that sometimes you're like, can you read the room in sync? And
he's the best.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, you tell me you're the number one option. You're in a room with guys who have like 10 rings. You were eliminated by Dallas in 5 games. Like, you still have to win something for me to respect you as like that. Like, don't get me wrong, his talent's there, but like, if you're looking at Braun and Curry, that's 9 rings between those two. I mean, I don't know if a young guy could come in and just tell the old guard to get out of the way. I know what you mean.
I don't think he much cares.
I don't either.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying.
I do. That's valid.
And that's where it's gonna get weird.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying it's right
Just
or wrong.
saying, I'm
That's
worried
just what
about the Olympics.
Yeah,
because it's
you've heard
stuff
about
like
this
this.
USA team, huh?
Now, I'll say this. I'm really glad Dame got his ring, not on this team, because, there was this drama 4 years ago, man. 3 years ago.
Well, because I mean, I've watched that Redeem Team documentary. It's great on Netflix. And one of the reasons why that team was able to kind of get USA back on the map was, even though I'm not his biggest fan, Mike Krzyzewski knew what he was doing, and then he got Kobe to say, hey, you won't be a defensive stopper. You don't need to score every time. We got plenty of guys for that. I need Mamba mentality playing defense against these European scoring guards.
Yeah.
And Team USA is going to need that.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to accept that role.
They got Drew Holiday.
That's true.
They got Drew Holiday there. So,
but he's not Kobe.
Yeah, he ain't Kobe, but
he's not running through Paul Gasol. Just throwing a forearm.
He ain't
game
Kobe,
1.
but he's a locksmith for sure.
Kobe just ran over Paul Gasol game 1 of the Olympics.
First play of the game.
What a psycho. His forearm shivered him. First play in the Olympics.
Ain't no other Kobe, so I'm never going to argue that with you if that's what you were trying to bait me into.
True. No,
that ain't going to happen.
No, I'm with you on that.
But I do think Drew's a
Gasol.
wizard. Drew's gonna sacrifice a little bit. And I think, again, Anthony Edwards, he's not just talking about being the number one option offensively with no plans to play defense.
I agree.
I think it's going to be a motor and an energy that he comes out and plays with, which is going to prove why he's going to be the guy this year for them.
All right, we've got the RCA mailbag coming up in a bit. But before we get to that, I want to let you know about Grand Slam Cash. That's right. Us here at Rip City Radio want to line your pockets. Be listening for keywords each and every weekday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15 for chances to win $1,000. That's 13 times a day. It's Grand Slam Cash from Rip City Radio, sponsored by the Hillsboro Hops. Get all the details at ripcityradio.com. Mailbag next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show. We do that the same way each and every day with the RCM mailbag. We throw a little twist, though, on Tuesdays when our good friend Devon Pouncey joins the show. We reimagine an old topic of ours, an old segment of ours, where we get to ask questions without fear of judgment because it is coming from love and curiosity about each other's cultures. We like to call it Ebony and Ivory. Here we go. All right, here's my question. And it's more personal maybe than cultural.
Okay.
But you're going to Vegas on Thursday, and I know it's a work trip.
Yeah.
But also there's a celebration going on down
For
there.
sure.
How do you do Vegas? You stay out late?
Yeah.
Do you do the pool? Do you gamble?
Stay out late.
You stay out late.
That's how I do Vegas. I'm not really a big gambler. I'm not really not that much of a pool guy either. It's gonna be 115 degrees out there. I don't care to burn to a crisp. So you're not really going to catch me at the pool too much. I prefer AC. But stay up late. I'll go out to events. I've already gotten invited to a couple of events going on out there. You know, a little open bar action.
There you go.
That, which, I mean, you can also have an open bar like right at the gambling machines at the casino.
That's true.
But it's not really my thing so much is to go out and gamble. I'm more of a foodie, you know, go have some good drinks, some nice cocktails. I'm more of a scenic guy than I am like a super in the mix guy, like at least during the day. And then once it gets later, I do enjoy like warmer nights. I enjoy that. But scorching hot days, not really my bag. You know what I'm saying? But
soak up the AC for a little bit.
Soak up the AC.
Sun goes
all
down.
Day. Sun goes down. I love it outside. I love being outside in Vegas at night when it's 90 degrees or, you know, pretty hot, pretty warm at night. I can get busy with that. But during the day, I don't want nothing to do with that 115-degree weather.
You two are the same way. You and Brenden. Brendan's the same way. He gets hopped up on those Red Bull vodkas.
Yeah.
He's out till like 4 a.m.
Yeah. I can do that in Vegas. I can do that. You know, just go move around.
I don't know how you stay up that late.
I like to see shows. I like to see performances. Like, I do that as well when I go out. Like, I usually try to go where I know there's going to be an artist that I like that's in Vegas, and I tend to like. I've gotten to go see a lot of like my favorite artists at like late night events in Las Vegas.
So you XS, that's your spot, right?
I do like it.
You love the XS. I don't want to blow up your spot, but do you have like a go-to club?
I'm not worried about blowing it up. I said I don't know if everyone can afford it, Justin.
Well, I'm just asking. Well, because Pound said he got invited. Because here's the thing. You hang out with Pounce enough times,
you
end up in a place that you're like, I don't belong here.
Yeah, I'm a Dre's guy. I'm a Dre's guy. So,
okay.
Oh yeah, Dre's is solid too.
Dre's,
very solid.
You get a lot more hip hop.
Yes.
Okay.
Performances there.
Where's
I've seen DaBaby at Dre's. That was
hotel
great.
is Dre's in? It's blanking me right now. I'll get it for you here shortly. But Dre's, I've seen E40 at Dre's. I think he'll be at Dre's, or he was just at Dre's. But Dre's is where I've seen 2 Chainz at Dre's. I've seen a bunch of different artists at Dre's, but Dre's is definitely like sort of the hip hop spot if you want to go to. Like,
oh yeah, no, DaBaby was at Dre's last time I was down there.
Yeah,
it's definitely a spot. I've been there once. Didn't see an artist, but been there once. It's a nice spot, man. But to your point, Justin. Came back. Last week I went to the Mariner game. Went to bed about 3:30 that night.
That's insane. That's completely insane. You guys are insane.
the Cromwell. But yeah, Dre's,
the Cromwell. Man, that's clutch.
Yeah, but Dre's is and then they've got like a main club, and then they've got like an underground kind of lounge situation.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that was the nightclub where Alvin Kamara had some action not too long ago.
I could imagine because that's the nightclub that the action happens at.
Well, do you remember when he was suspended? Like Justin, it was like a year ago when he got into a little tussle outside the Dre's nightclub.
I don't remember that, but I'm sure.
Put it this way. I got invited to an event this Friday night, and it's like a blogger type event. It's kind of like a popular blog event, whatever the case may be. And one of the things in the description that is mentioned is that it's only 3 minutes away from Dre's because they know the people of the culture really like to go to Dre's. You know what I'm saying? Like Dre's is definitely the hot spot for like hip hop culture.
Nice.
Black people.
I love it.
Yeah. So I'm more of a late night nightclub, get out and see somebody perform type. For you,
Yeah.
because I don't know if I recalled the fact that you hated Duke so much.
Mm-hmm.
I just heard what you were
Yeah,
saying
not a
about
fan.
Duke. Obviously, you mentioned Mike Krzyzewski and his coaching. Don't particularly like him. But back like in the heyday of Duke, it was they were going up against Fab Five and those guys, and sort of that racial reckoning that we were talking about earlier was definitely seeped through when it came to Duke basketball overall. Why didn't you like Duke in Winston, Oregon?
Because I love the Fab Five.
Really?
I love the Fab Five. Like, they
Got
were the
it.
cool guys. That were the cool kids. We all wanted to wear the long shorts.
Yeah.
We wanted to wear T-shirts under our jerseys, and we
Yeah.
wanted the black Nike Forces with the black socks.
Yeah.
So much so that Foot Locker at the Roseburg Valley Mall sold out of black socks. Like, you couldn't
Really?
find them. You had to go, and luckily I had, like, my family in Eugene. I had to go up to Eugene, like, an hour away. Yeah. So back, like, dude, they were the nerdy school. Like, they were, like, Christian Laettner was, like, nobody wanted to root for that guy.
Okay, I'm curious. Did
The Fab Five were the cool kids.
like your parents or your friends' parents, were they more so Duke fans, and then y'all were just younger and trendier and happened to
I
love
would
the Fab
imagine.
Five?
I would imagine our basketball coaches were like, Christian
your
Laettner,
OGs.
fundamental,
Yeah.
make the right pass, and we're like, no, we want to wear big long shorts. And we want like a double XL T-shirt
Yeah,
under
yeah.
the jersey.
That's
but
right.
yeah, no, I love. There was that, and then the other part of it was, I love Michael Jordan.
Right.
Michael Jordan went to North Carolina.
Yeah.
North Carolina hates Duke. Therefore, I hate
Facts.
Duke. Also, my brother kind of liked Duke, so
Okay.
it was like a fun way to kind of antagonize my brother.
Yeah.
I remember.
He's still coaching?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so shout out Cascade Cougars.
That's
Let's
right.
go Cougars.
That's
Gonna
right,
bring home,
baby.
Gonna bring home the championship. I got 20 seconds to tell the story. Duke, Kentucky, Christian Laettner shot game.
Yeah.
I was in my brother's fifth. They're going to lose. They're not even going to make the Final Four.
Yeah.
And then he hits the shot, and then my brother gave a victory lap around, threw that in my face. But yeah, so never a fan of Duke.
Got it.
That continues to this day. All right. Big thanks to Devon Pouncey. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday, everybody. We're back at it bright and early tomorrow morning here at 620 Rip City Radio.